Welcome to this week's video. My name is Agent 00 Sonic, and in this video, I'm going to be continuing with the watercolor pens. I'm going to be drawing a pretty notable scene from the movie Ponyo. I thoroughly enjoy working on this. I think it came out pretty well. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, and all that good jazz, and I will see you at the end of this video. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as per usual, we'll first have to sketch out what we're going to do. This right here is the reference image, and I would try my best to do two things at once. Replicate this image, but also attempt to create it in my own style. Oh, and a bonus, third thing that is sort of important, do my very best at learning watercolor painting. Watercolor pen paints? Watercolor with pens? Or rather, I guess just make a decent looking art video piece that you or your dog, or you and your dog, or cat, or fish could enjoy to watch. Not really sure if a fish would really grasp the concept of a video, let alone have the attention span for it. Speaking of which, did you know that goldfish have an attention span of only 8 seconds? What were we talking about? Oh, Ponyo. A very quick synopsis for those unaware. Ooh, double standard. Almost as quick as this sketch. Or let's be honest, just save you a click on Wikipedia by yours truly. No need to thank me, just leave a like and subscribe, or both. Yeah, both is good. Anyways, according to Wikipedia, the film tells the story of Ponyo, a goldfish who escapes the ocean and is rescued by a 5-year-old human boy, Sosuke, after she is washed ashore while trapped in a glass jar. As they bond with each other, the story deals with the resolving Ponyo's desire to become a human girl, against the devastating circumstances brought about by her acquisition and use of magic. Now that was of course a very short summary of the film. I would highly recommend watching this film. I personally have not seen it in its entirety, but it's a Studio Ghibli film, so by its own merit, it's got to be at the very least decent. But it was also the 5th highest grossing anime film of all time, so it's got to be okay. But back to the art. I didn't want to copy directly, I really wanted to do some things different. Studio Ghibli has soft lines and just a pleasant vibe to it. I'm sorry, a pleasant tone. I have to speak a bit more professional now, you know? Not really. I drew the hair on Ponyo and Sosuke with a bit more edge to it, and same with the overall persons of the two clothing and their limbs, but not too much to the point where it just looks off, you know? I did, however, do my best to keep the background as close as possible, and I noticed that the backgrounds didn't have dark outlines like Ponyo and Sosuke did, so I just lightly sketched them. And, oh, I cannot forget the toy boat. That being said, and I say this with emphasis, here's a drawing before I ink. If you don't know already, because you're new here, first and foremost, thank you. Second, I hate inking. I'm not good at it to my own personal standards. I don't like it. I get very paranoid at creating such a beautiful art piece and then destroying it by bad inking, by smudging, by tears, the risk of tearing it to shreds. It's just not my forte. But in order to do these watercolor pieces, I will have to get over my fear and just do it. And so we do. Being left-handed, I'm not entirely sure why I started on the boat and then worked on inking Sosuke. Maybe I did it subconsciously because the boat was a smaller item, and if I messed up inking, I could just cover it up by the pens. But here, you know what, I'll be honest, let's zoom in real quick and see the inking horrors. It's not that bad, but it's just the fine line that I'm dancing around, whether it's too bold or not enough definition, and if that's the case, do I go back over again, or do I just leave it be? Who knows? But considering we spent this long on just sketching and inking, cue the magic in post. And boom. Here's the last uncolored picture before the wonderful world of watercolor and willfully wills its wonderful results. Hopefully. Oh, sorry. I had to include erasing because I just like erasing. But I didn't erase the backgrounds and just the part that I inked. The toy boat, Sosuke, and Ponyo. Just because the background's going to be so soft, and while the background from the reference image didn't have dedicated outlines, it just sort of looked like paint. And for the moment, you've all been waiting for the actual painting. Okay, Sasuke's clothes, I had yellow, and I added orange to add some sort of depth, so that way it wasn't just one solid color. For his skin, well, considering I only had 12 colors to mess around with, and I wasn't going to have both his clothes and his skin match, I played around with the pink and gave it some sort of flesh tone with yellow. It kind of sort of worked, if you see with the blending pen here. Now, onto the clothing, and the blending pen actually held up. It actually did its job. Wow. I guess it was supposed to happen with the watercolor. Okay, so I went out on a super limb and just applied the leftover yellow on the blending pen to the skin, and it came out a lot better than what I was trying to do for Sasuke's arms. So while I had this momentum, I just went all in on both Sasuke's and Ponyo's limbs, and honestly, just look at it. Now, I'm not satisfied how his arms came out being so close to the same tone as the shirt, but you know what? It is what it is. We're just gonna have to deal with that later. Okay, we're just gonna stop. Go on. Okay, onto the boat. The boat, I didn't want one solid color, so I went with pink and magenta and red to give it some sort of shading. And while I was using the pink, I said might as well and just paint Ponyo's dress. And just like the boat, I wanted to give it shade, so I used red for some non-existent lighting, applied the blending pen, add some sort of good vibes that it went well, and then I moved back over to the boat. And then going back over to the dress because I didn't know what I was doing. And it doesn't look that bad. You knew this was gonna, I had to come back to it. The arms are just too well blended to the shirt. I know, I thought of it, so you had to think of it. I wanted to use orange for the shadows of the shirt, and I felt like it was personally a good choice to go back and do it. Wouldn't you agree? Anyways, onto the bucket. It's a bucket. But I went with all the greens I had in this kit, which was a grand total of 3. I also attempted to do some shadows and differences, so it wasn't just all one hue. It wasn't too bad once I started blending with the pen, but I did go a little bit out of the lines. But I'm still learning, so I'm okay with that. Now, for the boldest color, the black pen, which was probably the most challenging. Why? Well, Sasuke's wearing gray shorts, he has black hair, and this sort of gray undercut hair. And I just need to make a difference. So I watered down the shorts in a similar fashion that I did the skin and just used the wash. I think that's what it's called. And I just went in. Moving on to Ponyo's hair. It wasn't too complicated, just using orange and pink. Since it wasn't necessarily a dark orange, nor was it a bright pink. But I figured the two together would work. Oh, she also had this undercut too. But now we blend. And then we pull up some water and color. And it's not too bad. Okay. Now, moving on to the last part, which is going to be the background. The grassy hill, I mirrored that style of the bucket. And sorry, my hand's in the way. I used the 3 greens again. And then I end up using the yellow-green for the grass. And then with the blend pen, we just blended. And I thought it was going well first, but then too much water and the grass sort of lost its individual blades. But I wasn't too upset because the background was meant to be soft. So I guess it was a happy mistake. Onto the ground, cliff, ridge thing, the dirt. Anyways, I need to make sure that of anything I did on this was that I had to do the shadows of his feet and the little toy boat because, well, shadows. I added more texture, if you will, by putting down this olive color pen and blue that was apparently there. And then to make it not so bold, I added some green. And then we blended and it wasn't too bad. Okay, now the very last part is the clouds and the sky. I wanted to give it my all and give the clouds and the shadows that were there just to make sure the sky itself wasn't going to blend directly into it. So I used the light blue for the lighter shadows of the cloud, the darker blue for the darkest parts, and the paper's white tone for the clouds themselves. And, well, okay, here comes the real test that's going to make or break this entire piece. If I can blend. And honestly, it went over pretty well. Now, granted, there were some parts that I felt could have remained free of the blues for the clouds overall, but, I mean, it came out pretty decent. Okay, home stretch. And for those that have made it this far, type Joe in the comment section. I'm interested to see who is still here, but it would also be our sort of secret for those that watch this far into the video. Okay, the sky. Very, 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 very lightly did I go in with the light blue, and I just didn't want to be too concentrated in the cloud area because this meant to be very light. I also did something a little bit different, and I started blending it by this section thing to see how it would turn out, and it was exactly what I wanted. So I just decided to repeat the entire process. And yeah, I know it ran a little bit on the face, but I'm not perfect, and it's a learning curve that I'm happy to have gone through. But now for the outro, y'all. Alright, and it's done. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What did you think about the video? Now I will tell you about the drawing and the painting. This is significantly better than the other watercolor painting that I did last week. Not saying that it was bad or anything by any standards, but this one is better. The weather outside is kind of raining, and it kind of suits the fact that I was doing a watercolor pencil painting, drawing, pen, pencil thing. Anyways, I thought it was good. Now I realized that I definitely need to work on my proportions and get the sizing correct. I was just trying to do it in my own style and everything like that, and make sure it was going to be something unique. But yeah, that's it. So peace, love, and hot sauce, and until next week's video, thanks for watching.